Kansas City, one city, two states, Kansas and Missouri. Here are the pros and cons of living on the Kansas side rather than the Missouri side. The first pro of living on the Kansas side is the fact that it's going to be a lot safer than the Missouri side, especially if you live in Johnson County. But I would say even if you live in Leavenworth County, it's going to be a lot safer than if you live in downtown Missouri side. The Missouri side is where all the crime is typically, all the violent crime that you hear about when you hear about Kansas City being one of the most violent cities in America. A lot of people are talking about Midtown Kansas City, Missouri. That's going to be the area where you're going to have a lot of concentration of crime, of drugs, of drug usage, all of that stuff. Most of the Johnson County side, you're talking about the areas like Overland Park, Lenexa, Leawood, Olathe, Prairie Village. Those places are going to be a lot safer than the Missouri side. So that's going to be one thing that you're going to want to think about when choosing whether or not to live on the Kansas side or on the Missouri side is if you want lower crime, go to Johnson County, Kansas, go to Leavenworth County, Kansas. Wyandotte County still can have some crime, but most of the violent crime is going to be on the Missouri side. If you're looking to move to Kansas City, either the Kansas or the Missouri side, give us a call, 816-4MOVE-KC, 816-4MOVE-KC. Give us a call, give us a text. We would love to help you sort out this Kansas-Missouri kind of tension, and we would love to help you identify a neighborhood in an area that your family would love to live in. We have helped a ton of people relocate here from out of state, so give us a call, 816-4MOVE-KC, call or text, or email us. The first con of living on the Kansas side as opposed to the Missouri side is that there are a lot less things to do on the Kansas side. I would say the Kansas side, at least in my mind, is the more kind of boring side between Kansas and Missouri. Everything that you think about that is Kansas City, you think about Union Station, you think about the Liberty Memorial, you think about Science City, Midtown, Country Club Plaza, Luce Park, all of those areas, that's on the Missouri side, okay? And full disclosure, I live on the Missouri side. I've never lived on the Kansas side, but I spent plenty of time on the Kansas side, and I like the Kansas side. I can see the appeal of it, which is why I'm making this video. But, you know, I don't necessarily have a dog in the race. I don't love one side more than the other. I've only experienced the Missouri side, so take this as you will. But everything that you think about in terms of classic Kansas City, that's all on the Missouri side. You're going to find a lot more things to do over here than you will on the Kansas side. Not that there's nothing to do on the Kansas side, but again, there's just a lot more things to do on the Missouri side if you want those experiences like downtown bars, pubs, clubs, those types of area. Kansas City Live is over on the Missouri side. Kansas doesn't really have an area like that. Back to the pro though, is that the infrastructure in Kansas is so much better than the infrastructure in Missouri. I was driving out of my neighborhood, and I hit a pothole so hard that my bumper came loose, and it was just incredibly disheartening. And the reason why is because they didn't repair the pothole that has been in my neighborhood for the past 2 or 3 months. It's unfortunate, but that's a hallmark of the Missouri side, is that you got a ton of potholes. Now, not to say that there are no potholes in Kansas, but overall the Kansas infrastructure is better. I would think too that especially if you're going to areas like Overland Park or Leawood or Prairie Village, those infrastructures are going to be maintained better. I would say overall the parks I'd give the edge to the parks in Kansas because they have I think probably a bigger budget to get nicer parks. Whenever we go to a park, we like to go to parks in Prairie Village. Meadow Road Park is a great park to go to. Antioch Park out in Merriam is a great park to go to. We like Luce Park out here in Kansas City, Missouri, but overall, I would say the infrastructure is better in Kansas. Wide roads, Missouri's roads, especially in our neighborhoods and stuff like that, they're all really tight. And the reason is because our neighborhood is 100 years old. The neighborhoods out in Kansas, you can get some really wide, nice open spaces. You're not going to find that in Missouri. So the infrastructure is better in Kansas, and that definitely is a pro. A con about Kansas though is that the homes there are kind of cookie cutter. So you'll get a lot of new developments that are built within the last 10 to 20 years, and a lot of these are spec homes, right? People can choose between build number 1, build number 2, build number 3, and all of them are kind of the same. You look at them and you might say, hey, this one has a 4-bedroom, this one has an extra bathroom, but really you're not going to get the character that some of the Missouri homes have here. Our home is 100 years old. There are definitely some quirks to it. But there's definitely a lot of character to it too. Whenever people come over, we love them walking around saying, man, I love old homes. Of course, with old homes comes some negatives and some cons, but I think that I really enjoy our home's character. I really enjoy the fact that our home is, close to 100 years old, or if not just over 100 years old. I love the hardwood floors throughout. You're going to get a lot more kind of cookie cutter homes on the Kansas side because they're all built within the last, 10, 20 years, and they all give you just a few options. So that's one con of living on the Kansas side rather than the Missouri side. A pro, though, of living on the Kansas side is that typically the best school systems are going to be in Johnson County, okay? 4 out of like the 10 best school systems are going to be all in Johnson County over on the Kansas side. So Blue Valley is going to be typically the best. Shawnee Mission is going to be fantastic. DeSoto is going to be a great school district. Olathe is going to be this great school district. Most of the good school districts, like I said, are going to be on the Kansas side. If you have young children and you want to send them to public school here, you're going to want to take a good hard look at the Johnson County side, which is the Kansas side, because most of the good schools are there. Not to say that there are no good school districts on the Missouri side, but overall, it's better on the Kansas side. One con of living on the Kansas side is that it's a little bit bougie. I would say, especially if you're going to places like Olathe, Overland Park, those areas, Leawood, you're going to find that most of those areas are kind of bougie, kind of more well-to-do people. Now, if that's your vibe and that's your style, then hey, consider this a pro for the Kansas side. If that's not, then I think Missouri is going to have a lot more people who are kind of salt-of-the-earth type of people, kind of a gritty resiliency over on the Missouri side that I find is less on the Kansas side. Now, again, I'm not speaking in blanket statements. I'm just trying to give you a sense of the feel. On the Missouri side, it's just a lot older. There's a lot more crime, and I think that unifies people into communities. And on the Kansas side, I think people more or less keep to themselves because they're not necessarily having to kind of band together and make sure that the neighborhood is safe. So there are some areas where I've been in on the Kansas side, again, especially in Johnson County, where I think people were just not as friendly than as compared to the Missouri side. People a little bit more, I'd say maybe, like I said, bougie is a good word to describe it. Now, last pro for the Kansas side is that I think the homes there actually have more potential than the homes on the Missouri side. Here's the reason why. Number one, you've got Johnson County, which is really, really stable. Like, home prices there continue to go up because everybody wants to be in Johnson County. Young families, which is the biggest contingency of people buying homes right now, want to be in Johnson County because all the good schools are there, right? So that continues home prices going up and up and up and up there, right? Leavenworth County, if you want some good schools, but you also kind of want some acreage, you go to Leavenworth County, right? And that continues to increase the home value there. Now, Wyandotte County, which I mentioned before, does have a little bit more crime than both of those counties that I just mentioned. However, Wyandotte County is the lowest price point county in the KC Metro. And so if you're looking to get into a cheaper property, Wyandotte County is the best bet. And there are some really fantastic areas in Wyandotte County, like Strawberry Hill is a really kind of up-and-coming area that I would recommend you look into if you're looking to move on the Kansas side. So I think overall, there's actually more potential for the homes there on the Kansas side as opposed to the Missouri side. And we'll see what happens, but that's my prediction. I think the homes there have more potential to appreciate than the homes in Kansas City, Missouri.